Hello. So, we've got something interesting. Something very interesting, actually. I would like to welcome you to, the sort of UBL slash Revelations crossover. So, you kind of saw before on the channel, if you haven't seen, go check it out, that Kana hosted a Revelations tourney, as he called it. Where we played 6v6 doubles, and we actually were able to suggest changes to Pokemon in order to buff them, to make them more viable overall. There were a lot of changes made to a lot of Pokemon. Oh, there we go. There were a lot of changes made to a lot of Pokemon. I think overall there were almost 100. There were about 90 changes, probably about 100 changes to Pokemon overall. So yeah, there were a lot of changes to Pokemon. The initial tournament was basically to kind of gauge the idea of the interest of it, and then we can make it into an actual draft. So that's what we did. We did an actual draft. So yeah, the format is 6v6 doubles, with each team getting access to a Mega, a Tier 1, a Tier 2, was it? It was 2 Tier 2, sorry. A Mega, a Tier 1, 2 Tier 2, 2 Tier 3, a Tier 4, a Tier 5, 4 free picks with the 400 points, and kind of the standard formula we've been going with that. We've got Z moves legal, but no Dynamaxing or Gigantamaxing. I don't think I actually knew about the Z move thing until after the first week. Spoilers, I am I am recording this after the first week because I just haven't had time to record this. You'll see when the first week of this actually goes live, I didn't even record like that match live either, just because I haven't had a lot of chance to record recently. So, it was a really interesting one. Obviously, so most of us haven't really played 6v6 doubles. There's a lot of different Pokemon, a lot of changed Pokemon. I won't go over all the changes here. I'll bring up the changes if and when they are needed to be. But yeah, it was really interesting to think about. But for me, I didn't know if I wanted to take this, how seriously I wanted to take this draft, whether I wanted to put in like hours and hours of time, or if I just wanted to have this draft be a bit more fun, because like no one really knew what they were doing, so it was kind of all over the place. There were a lot of like things that went on, just like it was a bit of a weird one, to say the least, but we got there in the end. So yeah. And like the whole thing is a bit it's a bit strange for all of us, just because like 6v6 doubles and then all the Pokemon changes are like, it's very, very like weird. So like tierings can be messed up, but that's just because a lot of the Pokemon are experimental. We don't know how good a lot of these Pokemon can be, so will have the potential to be. So it's kind of interesting, but it's going to be fun regardless. I have played the first week. I'm not going to give any spoilers for the first week, but I can at least say that I'm happier with the team than I initially was, that's for sure. So, well, let's talk about my team. What did I end up drafting? So, again, I didn't really know what to do. Like, I knew there were a lot of changed Pokemon, and I didn't know what to do. I had no plan. In fact, we started to draft, and, like, I think we started it a few days early than I thought. We were still given time if we wanted it, but I was like, I have no idea. So I just didn't know what to do. So I was looking, and Meganium was already taken, and I was like, well, if I was going to pick anything, it was going to be Meganium, because in the Revelations tourney, that was one of the main things I used. So, that and what? So my team from the main team I used with the Revelations tourney was what? Mei, Gengar, Incineroar, Regieleki, Meganium, Tornadus Incarnate, and Megaina. Megaina was a banned. we got the Megaina ban in there. Thank goodness, because otherwise that would have been awful to play against. Or play with. But yeah, as a result, I didn't really know what to go with, so I was just like, you know what? I'm just gonna go with something that I tried to do before anyway, and regardless of if I get something to work with this or not, it'll still be good. So, we grabbed Mega Metagross. As we kind of saw before in the finals match, which granted the finals match didn't go the way I planned it to, I wanted to use Mega Metagross along with Kling Klang, because Kling Klang gets access to Steely Spirit now. And I thought, well, even if I don't get access to Kling Klang, but I don't see anyone picking Kling Klang anyway, Mega Metagross on its own is a good Pokemon. It's got good speed. It's got good offenses. Yeah, just Mega Metagross is a really like just good Pokemon. And we are using legacy moves as well, so that means like it does get access to some of its older moves that it wouldn't have otherwise. So it gets a lot of like nice coverage. Like it's just like usually if you think of a really strong Mega Metagross is one of the first that comes to mind due to its really good stats, really good typing, really good ability, just everything about it is good. Like there is no stat on Metagross that is bad. So that's kind of why I wanted it. I was like, there's nothing that you can't go wrong with Mega Metagross. There was the potential option to pick some lower tier Megas, get extra points for the draft, for like the free picks, but I just thought I'm just gonna go with a solid Pokemon. I don't really want to try and mess around with anything that I don't know. So, yeah, that was pick 1. And then for pick 2 was kind of interesting. Because, like, so we went through, a few picks went, and I didn't really know what to go with again. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do something weird. Like, so not weird, but like let's just do something that's like kind of, it sets me on a decent path, but also like this can still work. So for my second pick, a Pokemon that I didn't ever think I would ever draft. Like this was a tier 1, and I was like, this probably isn't even worth a tier 1 to be honest. But like, I still just want to go with it for some reason. So I ended up grabbing Indeedee Female. So Indeedee Male was actually a tier 3, so obviously it's shown here for Indeedee Male, but it is Indeedee Female that I ended up getting. I ended up going with Indeedee Female. It set me up to have like good Trick Room options, which I didn't know like which I would be able to get, Trick Room or Tailwind. And I was like, you know what, let's just make sure I get Indeedee Female. Like the extra access to Follow Me is going to be really nice. Like I found Redirection to be quite nice during the Revelation tourney when I used Meganium. I was like, I will take a tier 1 Redirector. They're also good, it's good offense due to Expanding Force. It's just a really nice Pokemon to have. Like, Indeedee Female is kind of shown to be very good. And obviously Expanding Force is great, but also it's already a great pair with Metagross, because funnily enough, Metagross gets Expanding Force. So I can make Metagross mixed and just go like, cool, I can go like Iron Head and like all the physical moves, and then I could just also run Expanding Force as well, which makes Metagross actually really scary. Because you can't just send in a physically offensive Pokemon against it. You have to spend doing something that's just gonna take hits from it. So it made Indeedee already just a good Pokemon to go with. It gave me obviously double Psychic, but the only weakness they share between them is Dark. So I don't know. I just felt like Indeedee was an interesting one to go with, just because I wasn't really used to Indeedee. And I never thought I'd really even pick Indeedee for a draft. But I thought, you know what, like, Redirections was really good when I used it back in the tournament, so I was like, you know what, we'll go with it. Neither of these Pokemon got changed either. I just was like, you know what, let's just go with some stuff that I feel like it's good. So, those were the kind of the first couple picks. And then the next pick was kind of awkward because, like, basically, some of the tier 5s we decided were a little too strong for being tier 5, and I will put that down to me being kind of dumb and really ruining that. Because I tried to grab some really strong tier 5s that were way too strong for being tier 5s. So my next pick ended up being a tier 5 that I had to trade out later. And yeah, like, people can put that down to whatever, but I'll put it down to myself because I tried to take a disgustingly strong. I tried to take Jirachi as a tier 5. Okay, and then we were like, no, we're not having Jirachi as a tier 5. Like, just pick something else up at the end of the draft. And I was like, okay, yeah, that's fair enough. Tier 5 Jirachi was kind of good. So, if just kind of like think about this is the end of the draft that I was making this extra pick. And during the end of the pick, I actually didn't have a fire type at all. So I was like, you know what, let's grab a fire. So I ended up grabbing Simisear, and this is the first Pokemon we can talk about some changes with. Simisear, not a good Pokemon. Not a good Pokemon at all. Awful Pokemon. Terrible. Look at this stupid thing. But it got a nice change. That, along with the other elemental monkeys, ended up getting adaptability, which makes this thing a bit better. 98 on both offenses and 101 speed aren't the worst thing on the planet. Its defense is left to be something to be desired, but like adaptability, heat waves, and overheats, and just strong fire type moves coming off of this thing. I needed a fire type because I had a grass type, I had a water type. I just wanted a low tier fire type. Turtonator was taken, which I was considering. It can go mix, it's got decent coverage, it's got nasty plot, it's got some decent stuff going for it, and as a tier 5 fire type, I was like, you know what, let's just get this. It will find its use, just because, like, I needed a fire, and like, there was no good fires in tier 5, or even tier 4, I was looking, like, there were no good tier 4 fires, no good tier 5 fires, and I was just like, just give me a fire, I'll go with Simisear, I'll make it work as a fire type. So, that was why we have Simisear. Again, I will put some of it down to myself because, yeah, like, I shouldn't have tried to get a tier 5 Jirachi. I should have known that was never going to work. But yeah, Simisear. Cool. Now we're back on track of things. We ended up... I was still looking, just, again, I didn't really know what to go with. A lot of this was kind of just, like, picking up random things. So... yeah. It's gonna be a bit of a messy one as well, because so I can't really find the exact draft order. So it's kind of awkward. But I can kind of at least give an idea on like where picks should end up being, because a lot of things were a bit messy when trying to put, because I did a lot of grace period stuff as well, so it's like kind of awkward. But let's talk about at least the next pick that I know of, and that would be Rotom Wash. So Rotom, all the Rotoms actually got a nice change. To buff them all up, to make them all good. Still some better than others, but yeah. So all the Rotoms ended up getting at least one new move. And some of the lower tier ones ended up getting new abilities. So like, I believe Rotom Fan lost its Levitate and gained Transistor, which actually makes it pretty cool. And regular Rotom ended up getting Prankster, which is pretty cool. But the big ones were the moves. So, Rotom Fan, I believe ended up getting Hurricane. Maybe, I can't remember. Rotom Frost ended up getting Freeze Dry. Rotom Mow ended up getting Energy Ball. Rotom Heat ended up getting Incinerate. And I think most importantly, especially for me, Rotom Wash ended up getting Scald, which is really nice. It means that Rotom Wash doesn't have to rely on Hydro Pump to actually use a Water-type move. And Rotom Wash is already a pretty solid Pokemon for doubles. You know, it's got that Will-O-Wisp support. Because this is Legacy format, it actually gets access to Pain Split, which in, like, level 100 format is actually a little bit more useful. It gets a lot of really nice moves, and again, just Rotom Wash is a bulky Pokemon with a great typing. And just as a, like, I've always liked using Rotom Wash, and the access to Scald just means I don't have to run Hydro Pump on it every week, which is really nice, because I don't like using Hydro Pump. It makes Rotom just a nice bulky support pivot piece that can go on the offensive when it needs to because of nasty blocks, so... Yeah, no, I'm really happy to use Rotom. It was a pick I was very, very happy with. It gave me a solid water type, gave me a good electric type. Another special attacker, sure. This team definitely has a lot of special attackers, but also has a lot of good physical attackers too. So, I'm not too unhappy with it. So, yeah. That's Rotom Wash. And from here, as I said, kind of like I was trying to figure out, where to go from here, because like I say, like, at least for me, the draft got messy because of, just because of my, like, I changed a ton of stuff about the draft at the end. So I guess we can talk about, what is it? Let me just have a look at my actual draft, just to kind of see if this is a good thing to go with. Yeah, so we'll talk about this next. So, I guess we've already talked about my fire and my water, so we can talk about my grass, because I ended up picking up a tier 4 that I've ended up getting swapped for this anyway, and that is the grass type, Cherrim. Now, you look at Cherrim's stats and you go, that is awful. Something had to change about it, right? Especially because it was tier 4. Like, its stats are not good. And, you know, its ability is unique, sure, but it's got to have something else, right? Well, it got a couple changes. So, the full list of changes, I believe, one of the main ones, was the fact that Cherrim now gets access to Triage. Not only that, I believe it got access to at least, it got access to Floral, yeah, it got access to Floral Healing as well. So, kind of how I was using Meganium before, just without Rage Powder, this thing gets access to, you know, it becomes like a mini Comfey almost, because it gets access to Draining Kiss too, so it just becomes like a mini Comfey, just with, like, a lot of less good things. But it's also a water type. I guess Pollen... Hang on, does Pollen Puff work with, Triage? Because so that's actually pretty good. But yeah, like, it actually gets a lot of really nice support options with getting access to Triage ability. You know, it can use Priority Giga Drains, Draining Kisses, Floral Healings, which I'll just note because, yeah. Those are like the two changes that Cherrim got. And I thought, you know what, for a grass type that's kind of going to replace my Meganium, because the pre-evolutions don't get the changes unless otherwise specified, and only Meganium was getting multi-skill and all of those move changes. Because Bayleaf getting those was going to be a problem. Actually, that wasn't even a reason why we decided on it. We were discussing, like, whether NFEs should get their the changes of the fully evolved form. We're like, oh yeah, like I wasn't a fan of it because I was like, oh yeah, well, Bayleaf's just probably going to be a better Meganium. And then, like, someone's going to have a Meganium, someone's going to have a Bayleaf, and someone will probably pick up Chikorita anyway, just because it's that good. And people were like, is that really a problem? And then we thought about it, and then we thought about one of the other changes that we made, which was Shadow Shield Dusknoir. And that was the seal on the coffin. We're like, yeah, no, we're not having Shadow Shield Dusclops. It's only going on Dusknoir, so NFEs don't get any changes, unless specified, which I believe one of the specifications is on the Dark, which I'm not going to show, because I haven't been given, I don't want to show that one, I haven't been given a version on that one, that one is up to Kanna, but, yeah, one of the ones that was, like, fully specified was the full Samurott line actually gets Sheer Force, which is pretty cool. But as for Cherrim, it's a decent supporting grass type. I liked the idea of it. It's kind of a mix of... It's just, like, a mini Comfey now. It's a grass type Comfey with just, like, less good stats. But I wouldn't call that bad for a tier 4. I'm pretty happy with that. So, and I guess it still has access to sleep moves with... Grass Whistle. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's Cherrim. That was a tier 4. So we've had our Mega, a tier 1, a tier 2 Rotom Wash, tier 5 Simisear, and tier 4 Cherrim. So, so next up, I think I think this was actually one of the next picks I ended up going with anyway. So yeah. I knew I wanted to grab a couple pieces for this team. Like, I knew there were some Pokemon I did want to use. And especially with typing-wise, because I knew I was going with a lot of Psychics, because I was going with Psy-Spam. I wanted to make sure I was able to cover up the Psychic's weakness. So, I ended up grabbing Drapion. Now, Drapion ended up getting one big change, which I think I pointed out in the UBL, not in the UBL finals, in the Revelation 20 finals. And that is that Drapion, as a tier 3 by the way, gets access, I believe it's over Battle Armor. It's either over Battle Armor or Kenai, one of the two. Where is it? Where is it? Over Kenai, yeah. Okay. So, over Kenai, it ended up getting Intimidate. Which is pretty cool for Drapion. Because it just means that, like, it can actually be quite bulky. With 1-turn defense and Intimidate, it actually becomes very strong. Like, very just bulky. And actually get some pretty decent support options too. Like with Intimidate and Knockoff and like Taunt, a fast Taunt as well, 95 speed. It actually is pretty solid. As well as good coverage, you can use it kind of a bulky offense mon. Like Scare Smack is actually not a bad move, to be honest, for this thing. Because you can just use it like, I mean it gets Snarl as well, I think. Like a 90% sure it gets Snarl. Yeah, so like I guess like just good support moves for a dark type, as well as access to good coverage, and you know it's just good. It's good against the ghosts. It resists the darks, and it's a bulky Intimidate mon. I just thought it could be quite nice for this team. Again, I didn't give a lot of thought to a lot of these Pokemon, but I just knew that like I think Drapion was a cool call, an interesting Pokemon, and was good for a tier 3. So I was like, yeah, sure. So I've got a Mega tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, tier 5. So yeah. And I think this is mainly now where we get into the really messy stuff, because it basically comes down to my free picks. And my free picks were all over the place. I think I ended up grabbing Lando T at one point. I think I had Hydreigon at one point. Which Hydreigon was something I was really considering, just because like it got access to Mega Launcher and Aura Sphere, which was really cool. But I'm just going to talk about all my free picks. Well, I'm going to talk about 3 of them anyway. We can talk about one later, because I know a couple of my picks I want to save till the end. So I start with the first free pick. As I said, I ended up not going with like Lando T. So I knew I wanted another Intimidator. I was like, well, what's another good Intimidator? I was like, you know what? Sure, you'll be a good Intimidator, why not? A Pokemon I haven't used in probably a very long time. And that is Hitmontop. Hitmontop actually did get a change, so over Steadfast, it actually gets access to Scrappy now, which means it actually has access to Scrappy Fake Out. How much I end up using that is kind of another question, but the option that is there is quite nice. Hitmontop's a great support fighting type. With access to Coaching and Fake Out, it actually makes it pretty solid, as well as all the great priority moves such as Rock Punch and Circle Punch, great coverage. Hitmontop in doubles has kind of been known to be that generally really good bulky support fighting type. So having it here just kind of felt alright. It does have a conflicting synergy with Indeedee, but there's no guarantee I'm bringing Indeedee every week either. That's a lie, I'm bringing Indeedee every week. But like, even without, like, other people have terrain setters, or like terrain does only last 5 turns, funnily enough, and in double 6v6 games may go on for much longer. But with other just good support moves, I just felt like Hitmontop was a good fighting type. It gave me second Intimidate, which I did want. And yeah, no, I just felt like a really nice Pokemon. I knew I wanted a good Trick Room mode, so like having Fake Out as an option to set up Trick Room instead of just going with Indeedee, I felt like a good idea. So let me just switch music because I know his music is gonna run out soon. Here we go. There we go. So yeah. Nothing else really to say about him on top. You might notice this a little bit rushed, but like, to be honest with this draft, I really didn't know what I was doing. So like, talking about, and also this draft was made a little while ago. Also, let me put him on top here. So like, I really didn't know what I was doing for the most part, and just like, it just felt a bit weird. Especially, a lot of this draft was going on when I was at work, and it just felt all, like, I have no idea what I'm doing. Each piece definitely feels more like a good stuff piece, where, like, yeah, I don't know. This draft is good, but it just feels weird. I don't know. Just because I don't really know what I'm doing. I think that's probably going to be it. The title of this is just, I have no idea what I'm doing. So, yeah. But with that out of the way, let's talk about pick 8. So, I'm just going to keep Indeedee there because I can. Goodbye, Simisear. The next pick was another tier 2. Him on top was a tier 2, and as I said, I was considering Hydreigon as a tier 2. But when I got rid of Lando, I knew I still needed a ground type. And I also needed a dragon. So, hey Garchomp, how you doing? Garchomp's just good. It's a good bulky ground type. Great coverage. And I think I ended up, not something I ended up considering really at the time, but something I'm definitely more so thinking about now. Garchomp's a really good Z-move user. Something I never really considered, because I was thinking, great, Garchomp's a ground type with Earthquake, so like, and it's gonna hit all my partners, which I have a couple floaters, but like, I don't really like using Earthquake in doubles. But then I realized that Garchomp's a really good Z-move user. So, yeah, that ends up being quite nice. But also, just Garchomp's such a good Pokemon, just overall. It's so strong, it's good speed, great typing. Garchomp's just good, and I don't really know what else to say about it. I feel like it's one of my lesser good picks, but with some, like, partner with coaching from him on top of that, it can actually be pretty solid. So, I'm not that upset about it. Yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. I just wanted a good dragon, and here we are. We have Garchomp, so again, I can't complain about it too much. Hazards actually seem more viable than in 6v6 doubles than they do in regular draft in regular VGC. So like actually giving it Stealth Rock seems like a decent option, to be honest. Great coverage, opportunity to set up. Like, I'm not upset about having a Garchomp. I really shouldn't be. Because it's just a really good Pokemon. It always has been, and I can't see a day in which it won't be. So. And then let's move on to pick the next pick, which was kind of the inspiration behind picking Simisear. And that was because in Tier 5, my original Tier 5, other than Jirachi, trying to get Jirachi, was actually Simipour. As with Simisear, Simipour gets adaptability. Now, Simisear I don't think really uses it to the best extent, but Simipour I actually think it's genuinely good. Like, Simisear I kind of picked because I felt like I needed to pick up a fire. Simipour I picked up because I genuinely think it's a good Pokemon with adaptability. Adaptability Scalds and Hydro Pumps coming off of this thing aren't gonna be bad, and because of the coverage that it ends up getting, basically it gets Ice Beam and Grass Knot, which cover, you know, the things that want to resist the water-type moves coming from Simipour. It makes it better than I think people would give it credit for. It doesn't get a lot of else going for it, unfortunately, but it's still a decently fast offensive water type with, you know, Scalds that are going to be 160 power, or Hydro Pumps that are going to be 220 power. I mean, coming off of 98 special attack, it's not the worst thing on the planet. Slap a life bubble on this thing, and it'll do some good work. And its speed's not bad either, it's just under Garchomp. So even just like... this will allow speed a good amount of things too. And I did want some faster Pokemon, even though, like, I knew this team was going to have a Trick Room component, because, you know, of Indeedee. Like, I was going to... and Hitmontop, like, there was going to be Trick Room on this team, I knew that. But I still wanted some faster pieces. Because I didn't end up actually getting Tailwind for this team, so... but yeah, Simipour I actually felt pretty good about. So for my freeze, I'm getting, that's 2 tier 2s and a tier 5. Kind of similar to how I ended up doing with UBL Season 3. With my 3 points. I actually quite like that format, honestly. Of 3 tier 3s and a tier 5. I actually think that's like probably one of the best values you can get. Especially if you can find good tier 2s. So... yeah. Which I think I was able to find a good enough tier 2s to warrant it. Instead of basically forcing myself to pick Lando. I ended up getting Garchomp instead, but then I got Hitmontop alongside it, so... but yeah, happy with Simipour. And yeah, so that's kind of the 3 picks I want to really talk about, because there were a couple other picks that I ended up making. I don't remember exactly. It was the next thing to go. I think. Yeah, so I think the next thing to go was, because I wanted to make sure I wanted to grab this now. I didn't know if it would go otherwise. I picked Indeedee. Of course I was going to pick Hatterene. Indeedee hat, because why not? So, goodbye Cherrim. Cherrim also doesn't have anti-synergy that much, because like Floral Healing you can still use on yourself. So, you can't, like, Floral Heal, Psychic Surge doesn't stop self-priority, so. Hatterene. Now there's no G-Max Hatterene because there's no G-Maxing, but Hatterene's still a good Pokemon. It's still got an incredible special attack stat. Really low speed, making it a phenomenal Trick Room Sweeper and Trick Room Setter. Indeedee Hat has been good since the dawn of time, and by dawn of time, literally since the game's come out, Indeedee Hat has been good. And it's slowly just gotten better because, you know, G-Max Hat came out, and then it started to fall off, and then they got Expanding Force. So yeah, like we've got like the full Psychic Spam core, alongside Metagross that can do Psychic Spam stuff as well. And while it lost its access to its G-Max, it actually still got a little bit of a buff. Kind of like with Rotom Wash, where it was like it was a move change that like helped, just kind of gave it a little bit of something extra, especially just considering it lost something. So it actually got access to Moonblast, so it doesn't have to rely on Dazzling Gleam to use Fairy type moves. It actually has a single target Fairy type move that it can use, and deal good damage with. Which it makes it a little bit nicer. It's not much, but it gets the job done. And with good coverage, the way to set up Trick Room for this team, and this team I feel like does have a really good Trick Room mode. Just because Indeedee Hat's really good, it's also got, you know, Hitmontop to support getting up Trick Room. And probably one of the strongest Trick Room modes in this entire league. I think the only one I would give it to otherwise would probably be Airstream, who is in this league. We're not seeing them in the Showdown UBL Season 3, but they are in this league. And when they've got things like, you know, Dusclops Glastria and Turtonator, and Adaptability Ariados, I would consider them to have probably a better Trick Room mode than myself. But, like, I'm still happy with Indeedee Hat. And then like Fake Out Pressure from Hitmontop and other stuff like that. So I wouldn't consider my Trick Room bad at all, but like Indeedee Hat's just so good. Because then we can just Psychic spam, and then, like, we also, like, even if we don't want to get a Trick Room, we can just have Indeedee next to Metagross, and it's good. So, yeah. So, a Pokemon that I ended up picking up in Grace Period, because it went originally, I ended up actually getting Klinklang. As I kind of mentioned before, Klinklang gets access to Steely Spirit now, which boosts the power of the user and the partner's Steel-type moves by 1.5%. 1.5 times. So that means Gear Grind coming from this thing actually does good chunks. Now with a Life Orb as I tried to do in the finals, it was actually like a pretty good combo. If you can actually get a what's it called? What is it called? A Shift Gear up. Because, you know, it's agility. It's a dragon dance, but you get 1 extra speed. Like shift gear as a move is actually like broken as heck. It's an agility plus with an extra attack boost, or a dragon dance with an extra speed boost, whichever way you want to think about it. So yeah, really good. Honestly, solid stats. Like the thing that normally lets Klinklang down is its coverage, because it gets Gear Grind and like Wild Charge, and that's like it. So. But because like you can just rely on your steel to cover your steel stab with Gear Grind as long as you don't miss. Klinklang can do some good work, and as I said, I partnered this with Metagross, and they could do some really good damage, both of them. So like I could make Klinklang even more supporty just to make sure it sticks around longer. So yeah, it's not a bad Pokemon whatsoever, and as a tier 3, I thought it was pretty solid. And again, I just wanted to use Pokemon that I thought synergized well, so yeah. We ended up grabbing Klinklang with Steely Spirit, so that's pretty cool. And then the last pick, definitely one I've been saving till last. And that is my final tier 2. My final tier 2 was a Pokemon that I didn't even know how good would be. I'm gonna say it now, this thing was way better than I was expecting it to be. Even after playing my week 1, I'm just gonna say that now. I just said I wasn't gonna spoil anything, but this thing, even after my week 1, I'm just gonna say this thing is way better than I would have given it credit for. And that was the fact that I wanted a Mythical. Mythicals were allowed, and I was, as I said, I ended up having to drop Jirachi because we all agreed that Jirachi at tier 5 was broken. So I was like, well, I should make sure. I had a look and I was like, what tier 5s are there? And I looked and I was like, this doesn't seem bad, let's grab this. So I ended up grabbing regular Diancie. This Pokemon's way better than I thought it would be, especially in doubles, because you don't really get to see Mythicals in doubles. It had no changes to it, but I thought, well, let's see what it can do. Turns out, it's pretty good. Wait, are you... hang on. Okay, so I said no to this before. But Showdown's making it look like... Huh. Okay, yeah, no. I was about to say. So I was looking, because on Showdown it says here that, like, it has a 50% chance to raise the user's defense by 2 stages for each hit, which meant in doubles it actually would be able to hit, it would be able to go up to +4. Apparently it was only a thing during Gen 6. In Gen 7 they changed it to just make it so that as long as it hit the once, you had a 50% chance, not 50% chance for each hit. But regardless, Diamond Storm with body press, kind of good. So yeah, this thing's really bulky. Has good offense, can set with Trick Room as well. Good mixed attacker. Gets access to Psychic type moves to use with the Psychic terrain. And a good Trick Room sweeper at that. Like base 50 speed, it's pretty low. And it's super bulky. So yeah, I don't know. Like, and I've got a lot of steel resist on this team. Like, you look at my team, I've got one. Okay, I've got I've got 4 resist to steel. Alright, 4 resist to steel. Oh, 5. Because what did I miss? I think I missed Semi-Pool. Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 resist to steel. So yeah. This is my draft for the I guess I'm gonna end up titling this the UBL like / Revelations draft, because it is a crossover between, you know, Airstream and with the UBL and kinda with the Revelations tourney, which probably means that, like, if you see videos titled UBL / Rev, that'll be what this is. So yeah, I am looking forward to this. I originally wasn't, but now I kind of am, so yeah. Probably because, like, I ended up not liking my team that much, and now I kind of like it a bit more, so I don't know. I'm kind of just rambling at this point, so I'll stop rambling. I hope you enjoy, and I hope you enjoy the matches in weeks to come. None of us really know what we're doing. It's a whole new format. It's a whole, like, a lot of changes. It's going to be really interesting to see how things go. So, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. So, take it easy, everyone. Peace.